Welcome back to our channel, everyone. Episode 15 of our project boat rebuild. And we are back to doing some demolition work. Now, if you've been following the channel, you've seen earlier in our videos where we replaced our transom with Coosa board and a really nice vinyl Lester resin. And then we did a lot of work on our console, but now we are into stringer work. And I thought I would show you folks kind of how we assess things. Now, stringers are one of those things that you hope they're not bad if you're replacing a floor in your boat or a transom. Sometimes you can get away with just cutting off a couple feet off the tail ends and you may get back into good solid material, and you can just kind of scab back into those and save yourself the labor and the work of replacing the stringers in their entirety. But as I've been probing around today, we were seeing that there were some definite, matter of fact, underneath the tail end of this one, there's some soft spots up underneath. And then if you look on this outside stringer, you'll notice we've got definitely some darkening of the wood there, which is an indication that water or moisture. So even though this still feels fairly solid, if we were to build over this over time, it may take a year or two for it to go bad, but it's gonna happen. And one other thing that we may do is a lot of times I will take a drill, and you'll notice there's a whole little series of holes here. And you'll notice that's nice, fresh looking wood. That looks nice. That's definitely okay. Whereas if we drill over here, you can see how dark the wood is though. Even though it doesn't really feel that wet, it's definitely gone bad. And as we move up further in the boat, up in here, we've really got some soft spots. I thought I would show you folks this. Super dark, and it just goes to mush. I mean, it's just, there's not even anything there of any substance or resistance. And again, you can see it's dark material coming out of that hole. So that pretty much means that these stringers need to come out, and we're going to be replacing them with some Coosa, just like the transom and probably the floor at this point. But we've got foam, flotation foam in the way. And this is required by the U.S. Coast Guard. Typically boats at around 21 feet and under are going to have foam flotation. But to get access to the stringers, we got to get rid of it. And one of the best tools for demolition in a boat has to be a good old-fashioned Sawzall. Now, I've had this one forever. These a wooden metal demo blade, and that's a pretty good long one there, is going to be the ticket. And there's several ways you can go about getting rid of the foam and getting rid of the stringers, but I thought I'd show you folks a few shortcuts that we've learned growing up in our family's boat shop. And what I've already done to save some labor here, I've already taken this one and I've gone all the way around, and then we did a chunk across the middle. And the idea is if we can get these pieces out in as large a piece as possible, because sometimes you can even save some of this foam depending on how tight your budget is. Also makes it easier to dispose of it. And then when we get into the stringers, I'm going to show y'all, we want to try to salvage as much as possible so that we can possibly template. So let me see. Now this is another tool that sometimes we use. This is actually a roofer's shovel made for getting shingles. And I'm going to see. All right, that's a pretty good nugget. Another pretty good nugget. Now what's interesting is the foam in this boat is completely dry. It looks quite good. A lot of times that's something that happens with boats, is the foam will get water soaked or waterlogged. And if that's the case, it can add hundreds of pounds of weight to your boat. Starting to make a little headway now. Sometimes you just got to get started somewhere. Using the Sawzall to kind of cut it in manageable sections is definitely advantageous Now the foam also does add some strength to a lot of these boats. It adds a lot of stability between the stringers and solidifies the bottom. And that is something else that we're gonna talk about, because as we start cutting this stuff out of here, you gotta be smart about how you do it, or the bottom of the boat could deform or misshape. So what you're doing, folks, is as you're cutting, I'm trying to break this foam loose from the edges and the bottom, but you don't want to cut through the boat. So I'm just kind of using it like you would a fillet knife, and you can kind of hear the sawzall, the end of the blade bumping the bottom of the boat. You got to be very careful during demolition to set your saw depth appropriately, or be mindful when you're cutting so that you don't cut down too far. So you can see we've got this middle section out. I've already sectioned this little cross right there. Sometimes I'll go back and check it again, and then it's a matter of just bit by bit getting the foam out of here. All right, coming out chunk by chunk. Hard to beat one of these roofing shovels, demolition shovel for doing roofing. You can pick those up at your local hardware store, and there is definitely some moisture on the bottom of that foam. It's not thoroughly soaked like you find sometime, but it's definitely not perfectly dry. We got a good windy day, folks. Kind of need to pick your weather for this kind of stuff. Tyvek suit and a mask, gonna need it. When you're doing this kind of work, you certainly don't want to do it. So any of you guys that ever taken old shingles off a roof, this ought to be second nature for you. Go a little more. Doing the sawzall filleting around or down the stringers really helps with breaking this stuff down and getting it out. Much easier to kind of section it. Good way to get your frustrations out. Nothing like a little demolition therapy for sure. All right, there we go, folks. That is the result of our cutting it up in chunks. That definitely helps. Y'all follow me, kind of pan around. Looks pretty good in here. Now we use the shop vac to pick up all the little particles. Tomorrow we're going to be using a sawzall to section this thing. But I know we talk about demolition. Shop vac's amazing. Need to get some extension wands and the little bristle brush if you're going to be doing this kind of stuff. I want to show y'all one more little thing. I hope I left it plugged in. Sometimes it's hard to reach out of the boat and in the boat to turn your vacuum on and off. A lot of times what I'll do is just leave it on, and then you can just plug it in the end, and that way you can turn it on and off. And I like to mark it vac on there when you got all your other extension cords and stuff hooked up. You know which one it is. But we're looking pretty good. I think tomorrow we're actually going to level this boat out, be sure it doesn't have any twist in it before we start cutting the stringers out. All right, folks, I think we're going to make this a short episode and just focus on the foam out and testing our stringers for are they good or are they bad. So hopefully you learned something. If you are enjoying the videos, and I hope that you are, please remember to give us a like, a share, a comment, tell a friend, spread the word. We also have a new addition to the Fish Bump TV world. We are now on Facebook. So you can check us out at Fish Bump TV. There's a group page where you can share your pictures and maybe even communicate with other Fish Bump TV viewers and myself. If you need some direct consulting for your project, Patreon is the way to go. And you can actually speak to me on the phone. We can send pictures back and forth, and I can help you out. And our new Amazon store below all of our videos, links, everything we use here in the shop. Also, some of our fantastic suppliers for the channel and sponsors of the channel. Support the show by supporting our channel sponsors. So once again, we want to thank you so much. It's Captain Joe here with Fish Bump TV. My son Logan working hard behind the scenes as my amazing cameraman. We'll catch you folks in the next episode.